Me and Chris go way back. The first time I heard him speak was in Sable Beach. He's traveled all over Canada, talking to communities about tourism destination. He's got a lot of ideas, got a lot of experience, and he's going to speak today a little bit about size matters. So let's give a warm welcome for Chris Hughes.
I flew in all the way from Owen Sound. I just want to do a double check to make sure that everyone is here for the Size Matters tourism presentation. Is that correct? Yeah, because I have the other Size Matters presentation, and that one is next week, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone was here for the right reasons. So yeah, Shane asked me to come and talk. As he mentioned, I have the privilege of traveling a lot and working with great communities such as yourselves with one goal in mind, and that's to bring tourists to your communities. Our company is called BC Hughes, and it's a really small, we call it a boutique company because it's basically, my wife and I are partners. She comes at the business from Interwest, so she was part of the resort development team at Blue Mountain when they first started to put the shovels in the ground there. So she has a wealth of experience on the big development side, and I come at it from being the destination manager for Bruce County for 10 years. So I worked there and did a lot of what I think were pretty exciting things, and we started to shift that place away from just marketing and selling the destination to reinvesting and redeveloping it. So we started a program there called Spruce the Bruce, which maybe some of you have heard of. And that's a program that's exclusively designed to reinvigorate small downtown communities. So it's looking at things like streetscapes, at facades, at giving businesses tools to do things a little differently inside their stores. And they've had a very good successful run with that program, laying it out across the county. So I was very fortunate to help participate in that. And tonight, what I wanted to do was, I've got a nice, good-sized slide deck. I pride myself on having very small amounts of text, so it's mostly all pictures and video, so there should be no one sleeping. But what I want to do tonight is leave you with one message, right? So when you come out of here and you go back to your home or your business or your downtown, your community, your broader community, I want you to think small. Because in this business, sometimes we get caught up really quickly in thinking too big, too quickly about the end goal, long-term, big strategic plans. Those are all great, but it's these little tiny things, these little tiny details that can make great destinations, and I see it time and time again. One example is we went for dinner tonight across the road at the Italian restaurant. Tell me the name. Stereo Vito, thank you. I'd never been there before. I've driven through Stainer a million times, and I've never stopped. It was phenomenal. And what he did, and we talked to him a little bit after, was he looks after all the little details. From the second you put your hand on the door to open the door to his restaurant, instead of having a normal door handle, he has this really funky custom steel design door handle. You go in, he's got his restaurant menus on clipboards. He's got effort put into the decor. The Caesar salad I had, I have to say that it was unlike any Caesar salad I've ever had before. It had spinach in it. It had caramelized breaded croutons that he fried in some special oil that made them taste like donuts. And I asked him, I said, what the hell did you do to these croutons? Right? So he was doing a whole bunch of little things that when Shane and I walked out of there, I said, that is a really, really cool restaurant. And that's a great story, I think, that needs to be told. So that's what I want you to think about. So when you go back to your business, look at all those little tiny things, those little wee details that can make somebody talk about it. If somebody comes into your place, they experience it, they go home, they're like, oh my God, those were the best croutons I've ever had. Something as simple as a crouton. So when we talk size matters, again, we get caught up in the world of, big is always better, and I like this one. I pulled this off the internet. Of course, size matters. Just ask that poor ex-planet Pluto. Pluto got kicked out as an official planet. In the nature world, it just kind of bucks the trend a little bit, though. We all know that the small dog is always the toughest dog in this situation, right? So the biggest dog isn't always the big dog, so to speak. We know in industrial design and in buildings, there's a lot of phallic symbols and a lot of male dominance that come out. This is actually the Hyatt Regency in Tokyo. You know, they're obviously trying to make a giant statement with that. But there's this huge trend in travel to think small and to think intimate. And people want to have small experiences in your local downtowns. Yeah, they're going to go away and do the big fancy resort trips, but they want authentic experiences, and that can only be had in small little places such as this hotel in Amsterdam. You can go to great big rock concerts, but as you guys are finding out, you've really grabbed onto a trend, and I've commended Shane and the community for their efforts with small halls. This is where it's at, and this, for communities like you, you have the vehicle to provide this, and it's really smart to grab on and start to own the small concert venue format, and you guys are doing a great job of that. Some people, you know, take it literally and create really small things. This is on the way to Bancroft. Has anybody stopped at the world's smallest bookshop? Yeah. Have you ever noticed they have an interact machine and it's self-serve, so it's not even staffed. You just buy whatever books you want, and the interact machine is there, and you swipe your card and you pay on the honor system. It's pretty cool. But again, it's quirky. It makes people stop, and it's just a little tiny thing. In terms of accommodations, this is a really great example in Finland, where they've taken the yurt concept and created glass-domed yurts. And people spend thousands of dollars to stay here, 2 people per structure. A phenomenal experience, but it's incredibly small and intimate. We've all seen this. This is when we start talking about the small little details. You know, you go to a big fancy resort. Any of us who've had kids, you know, what's one of the things they remember when they come home is the towel art, right? A really small touch, and they've been doing it for years. Everywhere you go, you see it. So it's not a new idea, but it makes an impact. Somebody's taken the time to do a little small detail in this great big huge resort, and it makes you smile. This one here, this is a great example. Maybe some of you have seen it. It's a Shell gas station. If I can get my cursor, about being able to do some small things to make people smile.
I'm at a Shell station, and I want to take you to the toilet here, because the toilet at the Shell station is ridiculous. It's too ridiculous. I never make videos, really, and post them. I had to make a video about this, and it's about a toilet. Whatever. So here we go. I'm walking into the Shell toilet. This is the Shell toilet. Look at it. And I can't capture the smell, but it's super menthol on here. It's awesome. This toilet is better than my room. It's better than my entire apartment, actually. So yeah, this is the Shell toilet. And if you don't believe me, there's actually a toilet right here. Bang. Toilet. It's really a Shell toilet. So if you're looking to use a toilet somewhere, try to find this Shell station. Crazy.
Again, you know, that didn't cost a lot to do it, and that has 22 million views on YouTube, right? Now, it's irrelevant because he doesn't say where the gas station is or, you know, whatever, but the point is that person who owns that station took the time to look after a bunch of small details, and it went viral. You'll notice through the presentation I have a thing about washrooms. I come down hard on I think they're an essential service that people need to do a better job of, so I've got lots of examples just so you're prepared that you don't think I have this weird fetish of washrooms and public bathrooms. I want to run some definitions by you, just so we can put it all into context. And so what we're trying to do is create positive visitor experience.
Great.
We're good? Nobody hurt?
Yeah, we're having a hard time picking you up with that mic, so.
Oh. Do you want me to talk like this? Does that work?
I'll try and fix it on my end. You continue.
Okay, sorry. So we're trying to create positive visitor experiences by doing a whole bunch of small things. And what I sort of define a visitor experience as is anything that contributes to the creation of a memory. So by having an experience, we want people to create memories so that they share memories and they go home and they feel satisfied and fulfilled. So it's very, very basic, very fundamental, but that's sort of the overriding philosophy of what we're trying to do, is create positive memories. The small things I've defined as often unsung So by doing small things, you can get a reaction which hopefully creates a memory. In order to do that, you have to look at all the touch points in your business. And I define touch points as anything that interacts with a person's senses. It can be felt, seen, smelled, heard, or tasted. So again, if somebody's coming into your public washroom, I think they had a lot of the, other than taste, I think they had a lot of those touch points covered. They had music playing, they had menthol scent being sprayed, they had art on the wall, right? All of those things they were trying to tackle. So you have to look at your business through all the ways that a customer interacts. So you guys mentioned you run the hardware store, right? So in a retail environment like a big store, you have a bazillion touch points, right? But what is the feeling as soon as they walk in the front door, right? What is the touch point? What's special about when they check out at the cash, when they go to the paint counter? And I know you're in a franchise environment, which you've got pretty standard sort of protocols, but what are those little things you can do at all of those moments to make somebody go, wow, that was the coolest can of paint I've had mixed at a home hardware ever. Your paint sticks that you hand out, right? It's a pretty basic paint stick. You could do something, you know,
They have a popcorn machine on the way out.
perfect. So your store smells like popcorn. Beautiful. It's a beautiful idea.
It has
Creaky floors, yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. See, people notice those things, right? So those are all the little things that we're trying to get you to think about. So by taking a cluster of touch points, by taking the creaky floors, the popcorn machine, the funky paint stick mixer, whatever, all of those things together, add them all up, and that creates a memorable experience. And hopefully, if you're a retailer, that creates more sales. People buy things. Big business. And I've got some examples about the corporate world, how they do it, and there's lots of lessons in there about how you can relate that down to your business. So basically, you know, to summarize those definitions, it's the smallest of details that create the largest surprises. So again, this isn't rocket science. This is not, you know, again, no big strategy required. It's just about looking at your business in a really small, intimate way. So in the big company world, we'll start at the top with, you know, one of the biggest. We all know Steve Jobs. Has anybody read Steve Jobs' book? He was eccentric. He was a control freak. He was very focused on the task that he wanted to do. Not always all of his staff bought into his ideas, but he was passionate about the little things in Apple. And that's one of the reasons why Apple is so successful today. Because a guy like him held everybody to task on all of those little details. Hence, we have these stupid, crazy lineups every time they release a new phone. And people, you know, they camp out overnight just to buy a phone. So that's a pretty awesome thing for your brand. So who here has an iPhone? Or an iPad or some Apple device, right? What's the experience that you had when you picked it up at the store or it came in the mail and you started to open the package? It's a multi-step process. They're packaging. Maybe you don't notice this the way I do, but it's so much detail was put in just to the packaging of the device, and the way that you unzip the little plastic seal tab, the way the box opens up, the way the box unfolds, how your device is sitting in there, how all your accessories are packed in the back. That's not done just on a whim. That's a tremendous, huge detail that builds a lot of equity back in that brand. And if you look at all of, you know, from a retail perspective, Apple, I think, is probably one of the best that does that. And in order to do that, they don't design all of this after the phone is already built. They have their packaging department involved right in the very beginning of the inception of the idea of what device they're trying to create, so that it's a seamless experience, so that when you hold that phone in your hand, if you notice the aluminum edges are rounded in a way that it feels good on your hand, it makes you feel good. Like every single thing about an iPhone or an iPad has been had a tremendous amount of thought put to it. You know, again, just another example of on the sale end of the packaging side. Who can tell me what company this is? WestJet. So what's their brand position? How are they differentiating themselves from every other airline in a cutthroat industry? What are they trying to do differently than everybody else?
We are the
Sorry?
Employees are the owners.
Yeah, that's one.
Funny
What-
stories when you start off on.
Exactly. It's customer service, right? They're trying to change the industry to make it Air Canada is so stiff and rigid and tight. They're loose. And have you ever been on a flight where they start bowling pop cans down the aisle? Somebody says, "Can I have another Coke?" And they roll a can of Coke. They sing Happy Birthday. They do all these things to make the experience different than their competition. And I'll be honest, I pick WestJet because I think flying is a horrible experience, but they're the best at making it the least worse, right? That's just given, right? Who here likes to commercially fly? Anybody? But, so they, does it cost a lot for a company like WestJet to achieve this? Absolutely, because they take the time and the energy to train every single one of their employees, right? They make sure that their employees know how to treat people. And that's, that's a bit of the Disney philosophy, right? So that's a great example of I consider it still a small detail, but it's ended up being a very big detail that has now formed the brand position for their company, about being the friendliest of the airlines. So again, paying attention to these small details, in most cases, it doesn't cost a lot of money. And I think that's really important when we talk about tourism, because tourism is made up of small, mom and pop run businesses for the most part, and they're not flush with cash. So we need to embrace those things that don't cost a lot of money. I don't know why I use this slide, but I think it's just because of the look on this guy's face. We're trying to create positive reactions. We're trying to create memories, right? So this guy, this server, decides to blow up a condom and put it on his head to serve the drinks. This guy is going to tweet and Facebook that to all his friends and say, "Oh my God, you won't believe what I just saw." It's completely ridiculous, but it did its job. It got a reaction and it got people talking, and it created a memory. Maybe not so positive, but it still created a memory. Some other ones. This is a job that we did. Has anybody been to the Wismer House in Port Elgin? So again, my love affair with bathrooms here. This is this is the funky hotel in Port Elgin, and they had a really crappy bathroom. We're trying to integrate fun touch points throughout their whole business. So we did something really fun and really simple, and we took a graphic wrap and we put it on the walls and put goofy sayings on them. Of course, we just made this up that Tom Selleck said 96% of women love a man with clean hands, right? Who cares? But the other side of it, is this over top of the urinals. They have more women going into the bathroom now to take pictures of that than, I swear, than men using the bathroom. It's absolutely hilarious. And people share it, they post it, they do everything that they do when they see somebody sees a good idea. I think it cost them $700 to do it, and they became the talk of the town. So again, really, really simple, small idea. We're in tourism, this is the fun business, we've got to come up with fun concepts. Another one of my favorite examples, has anybody stayed at the Hans Brinker Hotel in Amsterdam? So this one's a bit different in the sense that they're certainly not spending any money on ideas, but their brand position is to be the worst hotel in the world. Okay, so like WestJet wants to be the friendliest airline out of all the airlines. This hotel is striving to be the very bottom of all hotels. And I have the video to prove it.
Welcome to the Hans Brinker Budget Hotel, Amsterdam. A hotel whose lack of services and features makes it the most accidentally eco-friendly hotel on the planet. This eco-commitment begins in the lobby. To lessen our impact on the environment, staff do as little as possible for guests. An eco-elevator ensures that the only energy spent going to the room is your own. Take a look around the Hans Brinker Eco Suite. To conserve space and energy, up to 7 guests can sleep in a single room. Telephone and 24-hour room service, minibar, satellite TV, just a few expenses our hotel is prepared to avoid to save our planet. Eco lighting, Yet another feature. Every suite comes with a carbon-neutral eco-climate control system. It's also easy to use. Guest bathrooms are a celebration of cleanliness and eco-friendliness. Refresh yourself with our range of eco-toiletries and the eco-shower. We also ask you, the guest, to help honour our eco-commitment. Leave the towel on the rack. We won't wash it. Throw the towel on the floor. We still won't wash it. Let's visit the bar, where a committed staff serves eco-drinks. After your drink, sample authentic eco-cuisine specialities. Or simply relax in our eco-courtyard, solar heated when the sun is out. Additional amenities that have been disregarded in favour of the planet include state-of-the-art gymnasium and full-service spa. The Hans Brinker Budget Hotel is committed to doing as little as possible to accidentally help our planet as much as possible. Welcome to the Hans Brinker Budget Hotel, Amsterdam. Accidentally eco-friendly.
So that place actually exists, it's true. Their main, it's a legitimate business, and it's a big party hotel in Amsterdam. So they have, what they didn't show there is they have a huge bar, and that you party at the bar, and then you just end up in a room, and it all happens. But the lesson in that one is just that they're sort of putting marketing spin on it, but they're just being as horrible as they can to make a point, to be funny, and to get people to come and see them, to see if it's legitimate. So what I've done in here, sort of the takeaways, is sort of broken it down 7 steps to creating big memories by thinking small. And I like to do this because it just makes it easier to figure it out. You don't have to take notes, because remember, the only thing you have to do is go home and just look at all those little touch points in your business and think about how you can do them a little differently to make people smile. So again, you have to figure out what those are, and a positive touch point creates a memory. Know that, and we have to identify what those are. So looking at it through a hotel example, we talked about through the hardware store example, but I've just got some slides here on a hotel. There's the amount of touch points there's so many ways that you can engage, with people. And this hotel is fairly generic. It looks clean. They've got great tile on the walls. They've got flowers on the desk. Is that a very memorable check-in experience? Probably not. Is it okay? Is it the standard? Yeah, it is. But there's a lot of things that you could do there, and we'll go through some ideas afterwards. But it just doesn't start when you check in a hotel to make an impression on somebody. It starts right back when you're on their website, when you're booking the hotel, but even upon arrival into a hotel. Parking garages, to me, are a huge opportunity. They're blank slates. They're all ugly. And it's your first point of entry into a hotel. You think of when you go to Blue Mountain, you stay at the West End, you go in their underground parking, and it's like you're going to prison. I don't know why they have to be so bad, but there's tremendous opportunity there to put fun messaging. You don't have to make them look like that fancy bathroom in the Shell station, but just have fun with it and make light of the situation, at least that it's a big cement bunker that you're going into. So that's sort of your first arrival touch point in a hotel. The elevator, right? We all get in elevators to get up to the lobby or whatever, and that's a blank canvas screaming for, again, doing it a little bit different. And there's lots of things that people have done with hotel elevators, with graphics and decor and things like that. But that's a huge touch point that you could definitely do something with. In the guest room, this is where hotels, they start to react and do things. So putting things on your pillow, on turn down service. They put extra fancy soaps in the room. We worked with one hotel, and again, just trying to have fun with it. We put a little sign, how they usually have the little card on the counter in the bathroom that says our commitment to the environment or whatever. We made up a little card and we said, we know that 96% of the people steal our shampoo, so it's okay. Take it. If you want more, come see us at the front desk, right? Just to lighten it up and make people create that little moment, that little fun moment that hopefully will connect back to your brand. So there's sort of lots of ways in there that you could do things a bit differently. And you want it ultimately to connect back to who you are as a company or a business. So you just don't want to do completely random things, so you want to make sure it connects back in some way. Again, back in the bathrooms. Is anybody counting the number of bathroom pictures? The breakfast bar, you know, it's just all the way through. There's opportunities to look at the small things, right? Step 2, the small things can make you different than everyone else. And this is a really good take home that I think we forget sometimes. It's easier to be different than better. And this may not apply, again, in sort of the small rural tourism world, but people get caught up in trying to compete. And I think that that's wrong. I think you need to reposition yourself so that you don't even have to compete. And by looking at all these small details, a lot of some competition may not embrace this philosophy, and you may get a leg up on them by doing that. So we had a hotel, now we'll shift to food examples, which are next to bathrooms, are my next favorite thing to put in slideshows. Anybody been to Big Bay? It's on just between Wyerton and Owen Sound on Railroad 1, beautiful scenic drive. There's a general store in the middle of nowhere. You guys have lots of these examples here. But what they've done different is they make their own ice cream. And yeah, it takes time and effort to do that, but people drive from all over just to have homemade ice cream. It's rare today to have good homemade ice cream, and they pride themselves on doing it. So that's a small thing in their general store that they do that attracts people to it. Anybody been to the Hoyto restaurant in Thunder Bay? Has anybody been to Collingwood before? You guys got to travel. This is a legend in Thunder Bay. They're a huge Finnish community, and they have a restaurant. And what they do differently is, again, extremely simple, but people go there for that breakfast. 2 Finnish pancakes with your eggs and bacon thrown on top. And it's completely gluttonous, and you just take the syrup and you cover the whole thing, and it's like carbo overload, but it's every time you're in Thunder Bay, you go to the Hoyto just to have that breakfast. And so that's simple. That's a Finnish tradition, but they don't get fancy. They don't, try and do anything that's outside of the norm. It's sort of gluttonous. Martin River. Anybody been to Martin River? Yeah, good one. So I met this couple. Bought the motel there, and it's a highway motel, and it's tough to get people to stop. You're kind of almost in Temagami, and it's always that $1 million roadside attraction trying to get people in. So they built this fish, and they've actually redone the fish since this photo was taken, thinking that people would stop for a photo op. But she got creative in the restaurant that's attached to the motel, and she said, I need a hook to make people to stop. It's a really small hook, but I need to figure out something. So what she built was deep fried apple pie. So it's basically just make your normal apple pie, put the cover on the top and throw it in the deep fryer, and serve it with ice cream and cover it in caramel sauce and icing sugar. It's ridiculous. It's amazing. People stop there just for that. And they have that for dessert, so they have a full meal, and then obviously have that for dessert. One small hook got people stopping. And the day that I was there, I ran into 7 guys from Quebec, from Montreal, on motorcycles, and she was interviewed on CBC in Montreal about her deep fried apple pie. And these guys rode from Montreal to Martin River just to have deep fried apple pie. So you think things like this are silly and goofy, but they work. They truly, truly work. Here's a local example. Who's eating here? So I love this guy because I love his signs. So just by seeing that's a small little detail to put a fun message on his sign, and I've got another example later. But I know that the atmosphere, I know that they're going to be a great place because he has a sense of humor, right? And it's true, and he delivers on it, and it's a great place to stop. But it starts on the side of the road. That's his hook. That's his small little detail hook that gets you to stop. But I question him on the best schnitzel. This is what I would consider the best schnitzel. And again, this is one of these sort of ridiculous examples. So there is schnitzel under there, so that you can see it underneath here. This is smoked salmon. This is capers, fried egg, mashed potatoes. Yeah, let's throw some watermelon on there just for kicks. And that's at the Lakeshore Salzburger Hof on the shore of Lake Superior, just north of Sault Ste. Marie. But that is their hook, people. And they're way off the road, gravel, windy, dirt, nasty Northern Ontario road. People come, if they're in transit, driving the Trans-Canada, they know about the schnitzel and they come in and they stop for it. And that, again, that's their small idea, their small hook that works. Another one of my favorites, Thornlow Cheese. Everybody makes cheese curds. Their claim to fame, they thought, hey, well, let's make our own Cajun spice and make Cajun cheese curds. It's phenomenal. This is on the side of Highway 11. Truckers stop, just like truckers stop for beef jerky and Red Bull, they stop for Cajun cheese curds. Does anybody like cheese curds? Do you judge the quality of a cheese curd by the squeak? Yeah. This is a good one. Kind of reminds you of Ted's Range Road Diner, where you're afraid to get out of the car. I used to work at Craig Leith coaching skiing, and I had adults in my group, and they said, Chris, you're local, where should we go to eat? And I said, oh, you gotta go to Ted's, And they're like, oh, what's this Ted's? And I said, great food, amazing place, you gotta go. And these are all, Toronto head lawyers and dentists and all kinds of great people in my group. And they went the next night, I talked to them the next morning, and they said, we had to pry the girls out of the car. They did not want to get out of the car. But then once they did, they just raved and they told everybody about it. Ted's place is so off the wall different, but that's his hook, right? And I don't know if Ted's never been to any of my workshops or anything, so he just does it. He's awesome because he does it organically. Ted's highly organic. Let's just say that. So this is an Anchor Bar. It's in Superior, Wisconsin, and their claim to fame, again, you go there, there'll be 200 motorbikes and cars. It's just an insane little hole in the wall, and there's a million restaurants, along the interstate, but they all go there because it's crazy. It's a small idea. It's a giant hamburger. That's not, you don't always eat that. Everybody does the big hamburger thing, but they built their business. They've had the Food Network there. It's one of those great little hole-in-the-wall success stories because they do a whole bunch of little things really, really great. Did everybody have supper? Make anybody hungry? This is Jerry's Fast Food. This is close to me in Port Elgin, one of my favorite spots. It's typical beach, place, but what they do differently that I really don't see very often is, that's poutine, but imagine that as just fries or whatever. But they sell, when you go up to the counter and you look in and you say, I'll have fries, you see their sizes. They have those little paper fry boats, right? And they're literally the small is this big, the medium is this big, and the large is this big. So if you order a small French fry, that's what it ends up looking like. So they put that little thing inside the box, and then they just fill up the whole box with fries. And if you're local, and I'm going to tell you guys the secret when you go, that you pull out that little boat and you fill the boat with ketchup, and then you use it to dip your fries. Right? So you can tell anybody on the beach who's from Port Elgin, Southampton, because they do that. But anyways, that's just, again, and they're lined up and they're crazy busy because everybody knows it's kind of ridiculous. Small idea, one of their staff, they hire all students, thought of that, 25 years ago, whatever, and it's become a tradition. So everybody knows. I don't know what their margins are like when they give away that many French fries are cheap, so it's probably they're doing okay, and they sell lots of other things too. This one here, World's Best Donuts. This one, I'll play the video and then I'll touch on it. This is in Grand Marais, Minnesota. And maybe if I go to the next slide. Oops, sorry. Yeah, so it's just a picture inside. They play out this World's Best thing. Sorry, this says my mug in it. I apologize. a tourist town, a really funky town. Kind of reminds you of like a Tobermory. It's on the shore of Lake Superior. And so first time I went in here, I'm like, okay, that's a pretty damn big claim to make. And there's things that trigger me. It's bacon, it's butter tarts, donuts. Generally anything baked attracts me to stop. Poutine is another one that's now on my list that's really high. So anyways, I went in here with my buddy Mark, and I said, I shot a video, just caught them off guard, walked in cold turkey, and I said, why are these the best donuts? And you know what the lady told me? She said, because we're the only donut shop in town. And I just went, we failed so bad, right? And their donuts were just mediocre, they were ho-hum. And so that was a case where they set their expectation up here and they delivered down here, right? You're never supposed to do that. But it's goofy, it's in a tourist town, it's a tourist trap, so they're probably all living in Cancun all winter anyway, so it doesn't really matter, so we'll just move on. So right there's a picture of that bookstore. So literally it's, it's probably 8 feet wide. Small little thing that they have a lot of fun with, and that one's just small. There's no relevancy to the small things. So step number 3, there's 7 steps, so we're getting there. How many go for time? Good? Is everybody okay? Everybody awake? I used to work for government, so I did a lot of council presentations in rooms just like this. And the worst time slot was right after lunch. So I'd be going through my budget details with the counselors, and I would know I would get my budget approved if I could keep all of them awake. Anyways, so add small pieces of value, increases the value. Again, this isn't rocket science, but by doing adding small little bits, helps. And this one, let's see if this immediate is available. Yay. So this is another food example. Pizza, we've been doing it for years. I had not seen that done with French fries yet, so I thought that was pretty cool. This is big in tourism. People want to get behind the scenes. People want to get into the kitchen wherever they can. They want to see how their stuff's made. I realize it's difficult because of food safety regulations and things like that, but any chance you can get people behind, home hardware people, let's take somebody in the storeroom. Maybe. Woohoo! Right? They might feel special. Like, come with me. I got something in the back for you. Right? Yeah, let's go in the basement. Right? That would be an experience. And put a heat jacket on them too when they go down. But this is just across the industry. Everybody wants to see and experience, their something different and see it firsthand. Sorry, this isn't a Creemore. I don't have Creemore examples in here, but maybe someday I will. But steam whistle. Who's been to steam whistle? I think they are amazing, and I worked with them on little bits of things, and they're amazing for a bunch of different reasons, but their marketing department is internal. They don't hire an agency. So they're all there for the same reason, and they're allowed to come up with really great ideas because they're all this fun-loving team. If there's anywhere else I could work, it would be there because they're all amazing. And I put this as an example because you guys done their tour tour, their brewery tour. So I'm not sure what it was like for when you were there, but for when I was there and had the tour, this guy was a rock star. So they hire students from the local theater schools because they know they can perform. So this guy, we had, oh God, we must have had 30 people in our group. So the first thing he did was got us all to stand around in a circle. He stood in the middle and he went around like this, all the way around the circle, and he got us to say our names. And he said, by the end of this tour, I will remember every single one of you, no questions asked. So we're at first, we're all like, yeah, there's no way. You've been drinking, right? And then they hand us beer in a bottle. It's not a little 5-ounce sample cup. And we wandered around with this guy, and he was telling jokes, and I really couldn't tell you what the process of steam whistle or what they did or how it was cool. But this guy was just, he was the tour. And then at the end of it, he got back in the circle, and he went around the circle, and he remembered everybody's name. And that was probably 5 years ago, and I still tell that story. Like, it just stuck with me. And gave me such a positive impression about steam whistle, and the beer's okay too. But that's a small thing. They invest in these kids to do a really incredible job, and it pays off, right? Again, just getting in the kitchen. Open concept kitchens are really popular. So again, people want to see, they want to interact. I took this photo. I don't think I was actually supposed to be in the kitchen, but this guy's like, "Hey, somebody cares about me," and she's like, "Get the hell out of my kitchen." Right? And she's like, yeah, she's just angry. This is a good example, close to home, the Cheech. Has everybody ridden the Cheech? It's one of our gems, and I don't know if you know this, but if you're, I don't want to say you're VIP, but if you're with a group or you talk to the chief steward and say, "Can I go up to the wheelhouse?" They still do tours of the wheelhouse. And if you do a tour of the wheelhouse, 9 times out of 10, if it's not really stormy, they'll let you drive the boat, right? So how cool is that? So I do a lot of media work with different media from all over the world. This guy's from France, and Stefan, and he was driving the boat, and they let him drive it for probably 10 minutes. And the funny thing was, on the bridge, we looked back at the wake, and his wake was like this. Literally. But we couldn't feel it on the boat, and the captain actually came down, and he's like, he knew, and he's like, what's going on here? Because he wasn't in the room at the time. But so that's something that everybody remembers. Even some of the other tour boats in Tobermory, you know, if you got little kids or whatever, they'll let you go up, you know, and pretend to be a captain or whatever. They're really simple, really small detail, but people remember it. Step 4, teach your staff to think small. So again, just building off the WestJet example. This is a memory for me. This is Jerry from Algonquin Outfitters in Algonquin Park. I had a group, and we were of Chinese media, and Jerry was an absolute rock star because not only did he let them drive the boat, there were some language issues, so Jerry was trying to set up that he was going to do some interpretation. That was our Algonquin Park experience for them, driving around the powerboat. So I sensed they had a hard time understanding him, and it just kind of wasn't going great. So then Jerry turns into Relic off the Beachcombers and drove that boat like nobody's business, and it was like an agri-boat jet tour, and it was the most amazing thing. But that was all done because his boss has given him the freedom to be Jerry and to be an awesome guy, and that was a huge memory. Those guys loved him. Loved. Their memory of Algonquin was a lot different than most people's. Again, big corporate example, Lululemon is a great example where their whole brand is built on the education of people and wellness and connecting that to clothing and how it makes you feel. And they invest a ton of effort into their staff. If you've ever been, come on guys, who's been in a Lululemon store, to be really kind and understanding and knowledgeable, and some of the best customer service, you know, in retail, I think today is in a Lululemon store. Ladies, you agree? No?
They have nice guys now.
I don't know. I don't want any. Canoe trip on the Saugeen River. Again, a small thing. Empower your staff. This guy here is a shuttle driver. We went on a trip. That's my daughter, and that's my wife in the background there. And most shuttle drivers I've been with are shuttle drivers, right? And we all experience this when you go to Toronto, you go to the airport, you take a shuttle, and it's like was from Bruce County. He didn't know that I was the tourism manager and knew a little bit about how things went. He was making up bullshit stories the whole time with us in the car. I was sitting back there howling because he thought we were just tourists, but he did a phenomenal job of entertaining us. And it was a little detail that worked. This guy here, Robin Tapley, famous naturalist, same thing. Done many trips with him, and he carries this red backpack, and out of his backpack is like a stickle trunk. He pulls out these surprises for people all the time, starts fires, pulls out a bear skull, all this stuff. He's a phenomenal guide, that his powers have really let him run with it. Fred Shepherd, if you're ever on the internet and you want to look up something that's really fun, type in Fred Shepherd Parks Canada. So Fred works in the boring government structure of Parks Canada. Fred has really put an amazing friendly face to parks as their iconic interpreter, and he's shot all kinds of videos. He filmed a couple episodes with Rick Mercer, but so government even unstiffened a bit and let their staff go, and they really weren't afraid of what he might say to get them in trouble. They just let them go. So that's a great example in a government context. Step 5, let the small things help define your brand position. A big example here, I'll just ask a question. What do you think of when you see those words? Sorry? Oliver Martini. Anything else? No? I'll play this in the ball. Weston's Heavenly program, again, built on one small thing. We want to provide the best, most comfortable bed out of any other hotel franchise. To the point where, when they first brought that out, I actually bought a Heavenly mattress. You could buy them. People buy their bathrobes. They buy their washcloths. They buy their towels. Their whole small attention to detail is providing the best amenities of staying in the room possible. And I think it's been pretty successful for them. And again, started with a small idea. Let's make our mattresses better than anybody else's. Okay? That's not cheap, but it definitely works. So again, I just put another Elkhorn slide in here. Everybody saw that one last year? Yeah. I think it comes up every year, doesn't it? And then I put that one back in just because that, in my mind, was a fail. That was a small things fail. Step number 6, one more after this one. Give people small nudges to make them feel special. So I talked in the beginning about little signs and little messages and things you can do in parking garages and things like that. I'm not about sign clutter, but I'm about giving people a little nudge and making them smile. So some just really simple things you can do for your guests. I do a lot of work in the motorcycle sector. I'm making places motorcycle friendly. So we always tell businesses to put up a sign that says welcome riders, welcome bikers. This is in the US, so it says bikers. Here we probably say riders. Parking, tell motorcyclists where to park, right? Again, just a small little nudge that says, as I pull up, this is Aerostitch is a clothing manufacturer for riders. Let them feel they're welcome before they even step foot inside the door. It's a small nudge. Another example, this is a winery down on Lake Erie. Same thing. So they want motorcyclists in, so I said make them feel special. And the word will spread, and you'll have, your parking lot will be full of bikes. It absolutely works for them. This one here, this is at a Hilton Garden Hotel. A little sign, this is underneath the bed. How many people have looked underneath the bed at a hotel? You're afraid to. It says, yes, we clean under here too. Right? Because they know that people look underneath the beds, right? So that's just a really small idea that makes people smile. This was one we did for a client. This isn't a small nudge, it's more of a big nudge with billboards. And every one of them, we didn't litter the billboard with, we have this, and we have pull-throughs, and we have, you know, dump stations and all that. We did a whole series of signs with just a symbol on it that suggests this is a really cool, fun place to come to. And everyone's different, and they're all just hand-drawn caricatures. And they now have this on T-shirts, on bumper stickers. Their customers are buying into this little simple nudge concept. Selfie spots are big. That's a really simple idea that the tourists find incredibly amusing. It's a way to get your brand messaging across, your hashtags, you know, your social media channels. And these are fun because you tell people where to stand to take the best photo, right? And you can, that's a mark on asphalt. It's like a sticker, like a decal. You can put up a sign. You can do all kinds of different things to tell people where to get that perfect photo. I've even seen some that have instructions on how to capture the best photo, how to compose it, what filter to put on it, or whatever, if you want the absolute best photo. Here's a really cheap one, a really cheap nudge. This is awesome. This is in Turkey Point. Turkey Point's on Lake Erie. It's a bit of a party town. And they recognize that it's a party town and the church is open for everyone. So they have, at 7:30 at night, they have a BYOB. And just, so that nudge is just, I put that in because it's a hand-drawn sign on a piece of personal board. And I wasn't the only one stopping to take a picture of it. Some other fun signs. I put a few examples in here because I'm a firm believer in, like, let's not yell at people with messaging in the outdoor media. Let's have fun with it. Let's make people laugh. We've all stopped to take pictures of signs, right? This is just a, you know, a fun example. This is a, you know, kind of an over-the-top example of the restaurant sign, but again, that's how they're differentiating themselves from everybody else. They're a truck stop, so hey, let's put a truck as our sign, right? Small idea, iconic, you know, it becomes like an iconic attraction. Last one, number 7. We owe it to everyone to focus on the smallest of details. It's been a while since I've had a bathroom picture, so I've dedicated this next series of slides to the bathroom. Very disappointing everywhere I go, epic fails, and it all started with my daughter when we were potty training or toilet training her, and I almost lost her in an outhouse. And ever since then, she's terrified of outhouses, and it was disgusting, and it was an emergency because you're 2 and a half, and you gotta do it. But in the travel business, this is a fundamental service that I think we can all pick up our socks on. This picture, and I'll call them out on it, is at the Art Gallery of Sudbury. So this is in an art gallery in the men's washroom, right? And yes, I took a picture of it, and nobody saw me take the picture. This is the biggest travesty when it comes to washrooms, and I see this all the time. That people don't want non-paying customers in, but what people don't realize is there's a statistic out there, I don't know who created it, but I use it, and it's 78% of all people that will use your bathroom will buy something, right? So you can turn your customer-only bathroom into a marketing tool to get people into your facility. If it's like that Shell station, you bet they're getting extra traffic in there because people want to sit and smell menthol and listen to classical music and read magazines for 20 minutes. So I'll call that one out too. I won't say where that is, but that's a beautiful restaurant, phenomenal restaurant. They've spent a gazillion dollars on it, but that's right out on the street. It says, don't come in here, right? This one's good. So if you got to go at 8:57 or 3:35, you're screwed, right? This is a public facility, and I know why they do it because it's staff and they have to lock the doors and stuff like that. But come on, we can do better. This is Niagara Falls, so this is kind of the reverse angle here, where this is tacky Niagara Falls, of course, right? So this is a merchandise store where they sell licensed merchandise, and they actually do sell stuff in here. But they've figured out that by advertising that they have restrooms drives more business, more people into their store than if they just said, hey, we're an outlet store, right? So it works. It totally can work. Steam whistle example. Smart people down there, they get it, right? Open to the public during regular retail hours, so anyone can come in and use it. Tim Hortons, I I wish somebody would sit Tim Hortons down and tell them to make them realize that they're actually in the washroom business. They're actually in the pee business, not the coffee business. Because everybody stops at Tim Hortons to use the bathroom, and you just buy a coffee because you feel guilty, right? And their washrooms, they do try. They have those little signs in the back of the door that says, was last cleaned by a gym at 7:20 this morning. Report if not clean, but they're so heavily used, right? They need to figure out a new system. In Europe, anybody who's traveled in Europe has seen some of their systems, or their public systems for public washrooms, how they sanitize with, after you close the door. They're all stainless steel and they're meant for volume. Tim's needs to figure that out. Someday I'm going to go down there and do a protest or something. Get them to pay attention. This is a good example. This is in Toronto, where they're putting up these self-serve structures across the city as a pilot. They're $2. Has anybody been in it? This is down in the Queen's Quay. You put $2 in, the door opens up. It's like going into a space station. You sit down. There's LED lighting all around. Somebody gives you instructions on what to do. Honest to God, there's a voice that comes on and says, the toilet will flush when you stand up or whatever. There's music playing. They're an attraction. And I regret not taking a picture inside, but I'll have to get back to do that. But anyways, this is just showing that this is important. Some people are starting to take it seriously. This one's in a park. It was subway tile. It was spotlessly clean in a park in the middle of the bush, and I was just absolutely blown away by it. This one here, of course, I would have a video for another video washroom one. This is in Halton Hills Conservation Area, just off the 401 in Milton. And this was an idea of one of their staff. This was a small idea by one of their staff. Hey, it's Chris here from BC Hughes Tourism. And when you're in the bush and you gotta go, you gotta go. And this is probably one of the best, coolest looking washrooms I've seen yet. Everybody knows I love washrooms. This thing is like Taj Mahal in bush. Industrial scale bush washroom. So it's a culvert, turned on its end. The vault, where the stuff goes, is set up underneath it. It was spotlessly clean. And the reason why the staff person came up with it, because all of their wooden structures were getting set on fire. People were burning them, because they're remote, right? So again, small, silly idea that now these things are all throughout the parks. And they're, in my mind, they're an attraction. You guys don't think I'm too weird, do you? Houston, we've got Microsoft. This is why Apple's such a great company. Sorry, it does happen. Yeah, is this what you do? Do you have to kick it or something?
That's probably.
So we were at number 7 anyway. So we were at the end. I think I only had 3 or 4 more slides left. So I can try and recover this, or we can just sing a song and. So basically, what it was I was just going to recap the 7 things, right? So, and there's no way that I can remember all of them off the top of my head. So the one message I want you to remember, like I said in the beginning, is just to go back, look at whatever it is that you do, whatever business you're in, identify all those touch points that your customers interact with, and look at them a little bit differently and think about how you could do it, do something different to make them smile, to create a reaction, to create a positive memory. And by linking a whole bunch of those things together, creates one really big thing that can end up being like WestJet or the Westin and define who you are, right? The creaky floor example, in the hardware, my grandma had a clothing store for 58 years in the little town of Teeswater, and she had that exact same thing. She had a creaky front door. She changed that door one day. Her customers were so mad at her because she changed the creaky front door, because that became who she was, right?